Hey, KU fans, welcome back to KU Sports Extra here at KUsports.com with Benton Smith. I'm Matt Tate, and we are doing so much better than the Kansas Jayhawks are doing right now. 80-61, they lose it at Tennessee on an off-shooting, ice-cold, sloppy, sluggish, ugly kind of night. Benton, what was your first takeaway from this game? A battle of two top 20 teams that have both played really well at times this season, but only one of them did so tonight.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about these, I guess both games this week, the TCU game, which they won, and then this game they lost at Tennessee, I mean, they're just not hitting three-pointers is really what comes down to a lot of this game not being competitive tonight, right? Because I mean, I guess they weren't great defensively either. You know, Tennessee's not a good offensive team and scored 80 points. So, I mean, there were issues. But, I thought KU just, had another night where none of its guys could hit three-pointers. And then when you have that type of night with this team, I mean, you saw it for stretches in the first half especially, where, they were only scoring off, McCormick post-ups. And he wasn't even, going to the rim on those. He just happened to be hitting his little 10-foot jumpers.
Yeah.
And I mean, the offense there was no offense to be found because those 3-pointers weren't falling. And I think just probably the mindset of this team at this point in the season isn't in a good enough space to where you can really kind of get out of that type of slump quickly, especially on the road against a good defensive team. I mean, I think it just kind of compounds things when you maybe, get off to a slump of a start from 3-point land when you rely so much on those shots for anything offensively.
This is a good point. I mean, 0 of their first 8, they've made 1 and then took, I think, 2 of 17 was the number until they hit the second one. And, just one of those nights. And I think 3 of 15 overall field goals in the first 10 or 11 minutes. I mean, just – I kept watching this thing thinking, are those good shots? Should they be going in? And after talking to Self after the game, it sounded like he thought the same thing. I mean, it sounded like, he said a lot of good looks that just didn't go down. And sometimes that happens. But the problem with this team is that's happening over and over and over for a lot of guys right now. And they just don't have that one rallying force or one guy they can kind of look to pull things together, right? And Marcus Garrett tried to be that guy tonight by driving to the rim and getting to the free throw line. And, to his credit, he kept them sort of in it at halftime. I mean, they're down 14, then they come out and score the first basket of the second half. It's a 12-point game. That's in it. They weren't playing well, but they could have been down 20, and they were down 12. So I thought Garrett did his best to do that, but it's just not what he does. It's not who he is. And I'm not sure they have that guy. If you're projecting and looking forward, I think if it were me, I would look to that guy as Ojai. I think that's who it has to be. I mean, earlier in the season, we might have said Jalen Wilson, but his confidence, along with Christian Brown's confidence, not there right now. So I think Ojai, hey, he missed a bunch of shots tonight too, but I think he's a veteran. He's experienced. He's got that right attitude. He's positive. He can pull guys along. And, I mean, I think it might be a lot to put on his shoulders, but I think that's the guy they have to ask to do that. And whether he can do it or not or does it well, totally different story and conversation. But I think that's where they need to look for that because he's a junior, man. He's played a lot of important games with a lot of really good players on good teams. So I think it's his time to do that. What'd you make of the lineup change with DeJuan Harris getting the start tonight? Obviously, people have been talking about it. You've written about it. I mean, it's been a bad secret for a while that was probably coming, and it finally broke tonight, and he got the start with Jalen Wilson going to the bench. What'd you make of Harris tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously didn't kind of inject the life into the team the way that they were hoping it would.
Or that he
I think that's
right?
Yeah. Right, because, I mean, he has come in off the bench and, really been kind of a guy that gives you a spark, whether it's, with defense or just the way he moves the ball or, looks ahead in transition or, he brings a lot of really good things. But I don't know. It wasn't there today, and maybe that has a lot to do with, Tennessee having such a good defensive scout on KU and playing so well defensively that, I mean, once you get in that rut and if you're KU, you're in a pretty big hole pretty early and you start looking for, different lineups like, okay, well, what else can we do? And I mean, Harris just didn't have a lot of time to thrive, I didn't think, but I don't know. It obviously doesn't seem like a lineup that they'll necessarily stick with. I don't think. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to the old starting five pretty soon, if not against Kansas State on Tuesday. But I mean, I just think they're in such a state of the season where, Self doesn't mind kind of like trying different things because he's trying to find something to help turn the season around.
Yeah, good point. I mean, he flat out said it after the game too, that this was not that meaningful a game really to either
Mm.
team. I mean, yeah, a couple of
Right,
top 20
right.
teams. There's the pride factor. You want to go play well. It's on ESPN, all those things. But it didn't mean a whole lot to either team in terms of their conference standing. It didn't mean a whole lot in terms of, who they are, what they want to be. Kansas coming down on really not even a full day rest almost. So I think it was easy for him to kind of say, I mean, he flat out said, I may not watch this game, right? I mean, that's pretty powerful words from a coach who breaks down film and every last detail of it over and
I
over
bet
and
he.
over
I
for
bet
a
he
living.
watches it.
What's that?
I bet he watches it
You think?
reluctantly.
There you go. I was going to say, we'll have to ask him a few weeks from now. We'll ask him if he ever did, because it wouldn't surprise me. If you're going to pick one not to watch, this would probably be it. And you're not going to see these guys again, so it doesn't matter, But I do think the big things that are plaguing this team matter, and I think that McCormick said after the game, that's what we're still trying to figure out. I asked him flat out, what do you guys need to do? And he said, we're in the process of trying to figure that out. And so I don't know if that's leadership. I don't know if that's experience. I don't know if that's lack of alphas. I don't know what it is, and obviously they don't either. But I'm not sure. I mean, we're getting late in the season here now, and I'm not sure there's a whole lot of time to figure it out. They do have a couple of games with K-State, including one Tuesday night. They do have a couple of games with Iowa State. They've got some games that they can maybe get on the right side of this thing again, get some confidence, feel good again. Self said he thinks they'll get it back, but it's not there right now. And that was weird to me, Benton, because I thought it might be today. I mean, with the low pressure, low stakes, this game
Yeah.
doesn't mean a whole lot. And we've only had a day to rest or whatever. I mean, I thought they maybe would just run around and throw it out there and just play. And they may have if they found a way to get some more shots to fall early. But once you get behind like that, I think it's a disaster. And that's obviously how it played out. And they started pressing and just it snowballed from there. So rough outing, not what they needed. They've lost 4 of 5 now, and you got to go way back to see something like that happen. They've flirted with it a few times under Self, but not really. And I think in 99, 2000, they lost 4 of 6. Same thing in 2000, 2001. Both obviously Roy Williams teams. And before that, you got to go all the way back to 88, 89, where they lost 8 in a row. We're not on that level yet, but they got to get some guys playing with a little more confidence. I know you wrote about Jalen Wilson. Just your final thoughts on him and what they can get out of him and what they need from him.
Yeah, I mean, when I asked Self afterwards, like, what did they need out of him, I wasn't surprised at all with his answer, right? I mean, he's talking about energy, talking about rebounding, talking about going, playing downhill, being a willing passer and, knocking down threes. And I mean, that was him in December. He was such an impact guy that it seemed like all of a sudden this team that we didn't really know what it was seemed like it was going to be really good because of how well he was playing. And he has not, been that guy in recent weeks. And I mean, it's pretty evident. I don't think anybody is hiding it or necessarily dogging him for it. But he's, if he can find a way to kind of turn things around for himself, that's going to be huge for this team because, I mean, when I think about him at his best, I think about those games in December where he was just like, didn't care who was trying to defend him inside, finishing over that length against Kentucky and, playing so strong and, hitting the glass and confident when the ball came to his hands out in the wing that he was going to nail a 3-pointer over someone. If he can just get through this kind of skid that he's on, I mean, that's a really impactful player.
Yeah, he went to the bench tonight, as we mentioned, for DeJuan Harris, and I thought he responded. Other than offensively as a scorer, I thought he responded. What do you have, 9 boards, 6 assists? I mean, that's, again, I've written this, I've said this, that's a guy that hasn't checked out. He's just got to find a way to get the ball to fall through, and then maybe that player you talked about, I think the Kentucky game is probably the game a lot of people think of immediately, right? Maybe that guy can return. If he returns, it makes it easier for Garrett. It makes it easier for Ochai. I mean, it just trickles down from there. So they got to get him going. They got to get Christian Brown going again. That's two starters or starters type minutes that too often right now are just really not giving much production at all and playing a lot of minutes to do it. So obviously they're still working. Self believes in these guys again, or still, and it'll be a process. But yeah, we are. I mean, it's almost February, and it'll be a really important month for them to see what kind of role they can get on, if they can get on one. But they didn't tonight, obviously, from the jump. It was over early and never really looked very pretty at all. Tennessee did play well. They're very good, but I expected a much different game. I'm sure you did as well. Kansas did as well. Just one of those days. KU falls to 11-6 and loses it tonight at Tennessee, 80-61. They'll return home for Big 12 play on Tuesday night against K-State, and that will be a game they need and an opponent they need. We'll be there. For Ben Smith, I'm Matt Tate. Thanks for checking out KU Sports Extra. We'll talk to you guys again real soon.